Hi there, it's Nicole here with a Mix and Match Monday card. This is where I mix and match products from different manufacturers to create a unique card. And this is one of my favorite ways to create. You don't have to stick within one manufacturer, and I love that. I'm combining some W+9 Forest Friends and Curious Forest Friends images with a reverse confetti frame. The all framed up die is awesome. It comes with tons of different sizes of frames, as well as a stitched circle frame from Simon Says Stamp and some border dies from Lawn Fawn. I'm going to start with these images from the W+9 Forest Friends and Curious Forest Friends, mixing and matching the images from the two sets. They're made to work together. And I'm going to do a little no-line watercoloring. So I'm going to ink these up with some Waffle Flower Coffee Loves Milk ink. This is a really light brown ink, which is perfect. It's going to be nice and light, but it's still going to be dark enough that I can see the outline to color. And it's a dye ink, so when used with watercolors, it's not going to run. I'm going to use the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers to color in the images. I've stamped the images on Bristol Smooth cardstock and then kind of outlining with my darker color and then blending with my lighter color. If you want a less watercolor look, you could just use the markers. I'm laying down a bit of color and then taking a water brush pen filled with a little bit of water and blending that out to give that really soft watercolored look. And I'm going to continue this all the way around on the tree. To begin the card, I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to use the little raccoon image that you can stamp inside the tree or not. And I left it that way for a little bit while I kind of contemplated what I wanted to do here. But I ended up going ahead and stamping that little image there because I think it just rounds out the little trio of critters really well. I'm working in small areas instead of kind of all over. So I worked in the upper left corner, kind of to the bottom left, and now the upper right corner. And then I'll work here and finish the tree out. The ink does dry pretty quickly. I let everything air dry, but you could speed it up by hitting it with a heat tool, definitely. I love the Bristol cardstock because it's really pretty forgiving, but it's nice and smooth, unlike a lot of watercolor cardstocks. So it's going to give you more of that traditional cardstock feel, but the zigs work amazing. They blend beautifully on this, and even with the addition of water, it works really nice on this cardstock. So here's the little branch that the little bear is hanging from. Gonna go ahead and color in the leaves here with a green marker. It's the olive green. All of the colors I'm using are shown across the bottom of the screen. I'm going to color in the bear next using a couple shades of gray, a darker natural gray and then a mid-gray color, and blend those out with the water brush pen. That's going to help mute it and keep the color nice and kind of soft looking, but still a black. Something to keep in mind if you're coloring in critters with a no-line technique, you're going to need to go back in and add in the face with a black pen or marker when you're done, because you do lose the detail of the face. So once this ink is all dry, I will go back in and add in the details for the faces, which really make the cute little animals come to life. Little pink for the insides of the ears. For the mushroom, I'm going to use the carmine red. Blend that out with the water brush pen. The rest of the areas are pretty small, so I'm going to skip the water brush pen and just color those straight in with the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. Same for the little flowers here that are going to be colored with dark pink and sugared almond pink. They're so small, it's not necessary to blend those out at all. I added the detail to this bear so you can see the difference, how much of a difference it makes to add that face back in. Here is the raccoon piece, which you can choose to use or not, which I love. I'm going to go ahead and use it here and color in the rest of the tree image first using those same two brown colors I used before. The dark color to trace kind of the lines of the stamp, the beige to blend it out, and then my water brush pen to blend it and give it that great watercolored look. Go ahead and move on to the other bear while that dries. It's kind of a good idea to move around, especially if the paper's wet, so that the colors don't bleed together. So while I'm waiting for the tree to dry and I can color the raccoon, I'm going to color the bear since it's not connected to the tree at all. Again, using those two gray colors, exactly like before. The water brush pen blends those out beautifully. Then I can go back over and I'm going to use those same two gray colors for the raccoon, where the natural gray is going to be great for the raccoon's mask, and then the mid gray is great for the lighter areas, and blending these out with a lot of water from the water brush pen. In fact, the mask and the stripe are a little too light, so I am going to go back in and add a little bit more dark color and blend it out. And that's going to darken it up just enough to give you that nice contrast. I'll add a little sugared almond pink to the insides of the ear and a little mid-gray over that to mute the pink so it's not quite so harsh. Darkening up part of the tree around where he's peeking out. And then for the honey pot, I'm going to color that in with the beige that I used. That's the lighter brown color from the tree, and the honey with yellow. And a little sugared almond pink for the bear's tongue, because his little tongue is peeking out, licking up that honey. Color in the other mushroom just like I did the first one, with the carmine red, my olive green, and then the yellow. Once all of these are colored in, I'm going to make sure they're really good and dry. Use the Coordinating Forest Friends and Curious Forest Friends dies and die cut everything. Kind of lay everything out, make sure it's still working well together to build this scene. So there are my 4 pieces. I'm going to take a black glaze pen and add that detail into the nose and eyes. If you ever question exactly where they are, take the stamp set and just kind of use it as a guide, because sometimes your color is so dark it really mutes where the face, where the nose and the eyes might be on the face, and it's so hard to see. So I like to reference the stamp sheet for that. I'm going to take the All Framed Up Reverse Confetti die and die cut the frames. This is a great die because it die cuts a bunch of frames with one die. So you can save a bunch of those for later, especially if you're not going to use them all. I'm going to use the 3 largest ones, and I die cut them from both white cardstock and black. On another piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock, I'm going to wet it down, and then I'm going to add some color to that with some great opaque watercolors. I'm using a couple shades of blue for the background, doing a really messy watercolor. I don't want it to be very uniform, so I'm definitely doing a messier look. But once it dries, I think it's really awesome. I'm going to let this partially dry and then come back and flick it with some of my darker paint. I tried to flick it here and a lot of it really kind of dried out, and I wanted some of those darker splatters. I've also die cut 2 borders from the Lawn Fawn, or using the Lawn Fawn Meadow Borders dies, also from Bristol Smooth cardstock, this time painting them with some green paint and flicking some of those darker, flicking it with a more opaque paint over that once it starts to dry a little bit. Very messy coloring again. Once that dries, I'll flick that with a little bit of paint too. So go ahead and do the blue here. And that's where I'm going to get some of those darker blue splatters once it's dried just a little bit. I let everything air dry, but you could definitely hit it with a heat tool if you want to. To hold my frames together, I am going to use foam adhesive on the back. And that's going to secure these 3 largest white frames together. On top of this, I'm going to glue the black frame, the one in the middle, on top of the white one instead of doing an inlay. So I'll run a thin line of glue around that middle frame and then place the black frame right there. And I love the matting look this gives to a scene where it frames it up. You can get all these different colors. I kept it pretty traditional with the white and black, but you could do lots of different cardstock colors here. I think that'd be really fun. I'm going to put an acrylic block on top of this to hold it down until it dries, and take 2 of the greetings from the Curious Forest Friends stamp set, stamp them with Versamark on vellum, heat emboss that with some white embossing powder, and then die cut that with the Simon Says stamp stitched circles, one of those dies. This is I love to do my greetings embossed on vellum because you can see the greeting, but you can see the scene underneath as well because it peeks out from that vellum. This is going to be hanging from the top portion of the frame right over the top part of the tree. I'm going to secure that with a little adhesive, but I don't want it to flip up. So I'm going to hide some liquid adhesive behind the embossed areas. Go ahead and secure that right there. Put something heavy on it while that dries. I also decided I needed a little bumblebee, so I stamped that with black ink and colored it in with the yellow zig marker and then adhered it to the scene, placed my frame over the top, and then added that to a side fold white card base. Thanks for joining me today for this thank you card showcasing no-line watercoloring for Mix and Match Monday. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more cards that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.